gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Outside Line Podcast. The Outside Line Podcast. Outside Line Podcast.
Hang on to her, buddy. There's still three. He got him. He's
It just makes sense. It's too logical for them, for NASCAR, though.
Carson.
I'm glad you hear us, NASCAR. Make sure you keep listening. We'll see what happens. I'm going to take a breath here. That was a long rant.
Those cars are a lot tougher than an F1 car.
Yeah, that's what I like about IndyCar. You really need the spotter.
This is going to be fun. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Outside Line Podcast. My name is Jacob Barker. Today, I am once again joined by Chris Shoemaker and Mason Wood. How are we doing today, guys?
I'm doing all right. I'm really tired from watching most of the 24 hours Le Mans.
I am doing good. I'm ready to get this episode started. And yeah, 24-hour Le Mans was this weekend. Very entertaining to watch. And it's definitely going to make you a little bit tired watching that entire race.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It was a great race. But first, Mason, you got something in the works for us, don't you? Let's start out with you.
Oh, do we want to start with the segment? All right.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
going to start out with the brand new segment, folks. This is called Coming to the Line. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to give each of our hosts, Jacob and Christopher, we're going to give them 30 seconds to just spit out some statements about some different headlines from the week, just so we can touch on some different headlines that we may not have time to talk about during the episode. So, fellas, the first headline of 3 that we'll be doing today, r/NASCAR recently joined the site-wide Reddit blackout. The subreddit will be down from June 12th to the 14th in protest of Reddit's new moderating rules, which basically forces moderators and subreddit owners to use Reddit's mod tools, specifically Reddit's mod tools, rather than third-party services that have been in use for over a decade. What are your guys' thoughts on r/NASCAR joining this specific movement and being down until the 14th?
You want to go first, Jacob?
Sure, I'll go first. Well, good for them, because what's that saying? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Because this is something that shouldn't have been messed with in the first place. So it's kind of like why change the rules for people who that's been doing this for 10 plus years, however long the server's been up. So it's kind of like, just why mess with it in the first place?
5 seconds. Oh, and he's done. Perfect. We're going to give everybody 30 seconds, like I said. And then I'm also going to say come into the line or 5 seconds with 5 seconds to go. Chris, your thoughts on r/NASCAR joining this movement for the next 2 days?
Honestly, I don't really use Reddit that much, so I don't really know what's going around, and I don't quite understand everything that's going around. So, cool. I guess that's my take on it.
Hey, I'll say this as somebody who actively uses r/NASCAR. It is a little bit difficult when I went on to check my morning Monday news and none of it's there, because it's always sorted very nicely for me versus Twitter. I got to go find it. I got to go find the Adam Stern tweets. I got to go find the Bob Pockers tweets. So Reddit organizes it very well. It's unfortunate that they're not up, but I understand why they're doing it. There's a lot of Reddits that are joining it, so it's a cool movement for sure. All right. Heading into our second point, we've got 3 total. We're going to start with Christopher this time. You can start off. Ty Dillon and Josh Bilicki got into it at the end of the race. Bilicki said, quote, "What a hack. This is just a few laps after he spun the 10-2. Killed our day." What are your thoughts on Ty Dillon's incidents yesterday, getting into the 10 and into Josh Bilicki? Was he a little reckless?
Honestly, I think this goes back to what we were talking about last episode, last week, about respect and the lack of it. And it's becoming an every week thing, and it's just becoming a bad look for NASCAR. And like we were talking about earlier, they got to do something about that, just in general.
Absolutely. Jacob, what are your thoughts on the Ty Dillon incidents yesterday?
I thought it was hilarious, honestly. But I don't know what Ty was thinking, whether he got into the turn too hot or what, because it was like, 6 laps to go in the race, and we had like 5 different cars spin within the last 10 laps, and Ryan Blaney had an incident twice in those last 10 laps, so it could be a respect thing as well, and that's going into the conversation with Ty and Josh Bilicki. So maybe a little bit of a lack of respect, but it's hard to say with this because we're on a road course and these are big, heavy stock cars. So
Coming to the line.
you never know with these cars.
Absolutely. And there was a shot that somebody posted on Twitter that had specifically, it was from the grandstands. It was a good grandstand view, and you just see Ty Dillon come out of nowhere, and out goes Josh Bilicki. Josh Bilicki retweeted it. If you guys wanted to check that out. All righty, folks, heading into our last question of Coming to the Line, our new segment here on the Outside Line. F1 2023 comes out later this week, fellas. What track will you be racing on first?
The obvious answer is Las Vegas, because I mean it's the new track. We want to see how it handles before the real life Formula One competition gets there in November, because that's 5 months away. So people want to see how the car handles there, test up different setups. So it'll be interesting to see how it does handle inside the game compared to real life. But that's where I will be starting when I get my hands on the game, is at Las Vegas.
I'm thinking Canada. Canada is always my go-to test track.
It's one of your favorites.
It's partly because I know it so well, and probably my second would be maybe Las Vegas, just because I want to see what it's all about and how fancy it's going to look. And overall, I'm kind of really excited for the game. It's just expensive, man.
Mm-hmm.
All those games these days are expensive. Are y'all going to get it for PC?
No, I'll probably get it for Xbox. It works very well with my steering wheel on Xbox.
I'm going to get it on.
I'm talking to y'all now.
Yeah, I'm going to get it on PC. I'm going to eventually get a steering wheel, but I'm going to wait to come back from vacation on that to make that purchase.
Now, my question, just to wrap up the segment, guys, what are your thoughts? Are you guys excited for Las Vegas? Like, do you think it's going to be like in the game? I'm talking in the game, not specifically talking in person, but like, do you think it's going to be, extremely difficult, like a Saudi Arabia type track? Like, what are you kind of thinking it's going to be? Is it going to be the new, Monaco for Chris, or is it going to be the new Canada for Chris? Like, what is it going to be?
Man, I don't know, because, and this is a bit of an unpopular opinion on my side, but I love the Saudi Arabia track. I think it's really fun, in my opinion. So
I got it yesterday, and I was god awful. So
God,
I finished third, but I should have finished first.
It's awesome, but I don't know. I really don't know that right now. It'd probably be one of those deals where you would have to try the track out first, see how you feel about it, and then come back to this conversation.
Honestly, I'm just kind of like, I mean, I'm interested to try it. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, I really don't know what to expect from it. And I guess that's both a good thing and a bad thing. So I mean, maybe it'll be one of my favorite tracks. And honestly, I have some opinions about the Saudi Arabian venue, but it is a fun track. And kind of like another fun track for me was Miami, as goofy as the Grand Prix was.
Yeah,
it's still a fun track, and it's actually one of my better tracks.
Have either of you been to Vegas, like in real life?
no.
So I've been one time. So like, not to say that I know Vegas like the back of my hand or something like that, but the view that they like down the very long straightaway, just right down the strip there, the game has done an amazing job of making that look beautiful. And it's really cool from from the standpoint of like when I was watching the gameplay, just being like, oh, there's the Bellagio and there's this this building and this building, that whole aspect of it was really cool. So I think it's going to be that line of spectacle and good racetrack. You got to find that sort of line there. So we'll see whether or not we can really tell the difference with F1 2023. But folks, all in all, that last segment a little bit long. I just wanted to gauge some opinions here on F1 2023, an exciting game coming out this Friday. But that is the Coming to the Line segment. So thank you for enjoying the first Coming to the Line segment here on the Outside Line.
Yeah, thank you for obviously hosting that segment. And I know we want to make that a weekly thing from now on. We're going to definitely do our best to keep it up, and looking forward to these what would you call it? Just these rapid fire questions. So this is going to be good. I'm really looking forward to trying this out in the future. But how about we talk about probably the most exciting race over the weekend, the 24 Hours of Le Mans. That was crazy for a little bit there. I can't remember the last time I was this excited for 24 Hours of Le Mans. Probably never, if I'm being perfectly honest. But that was a great race from Saturday to Sunday. From the little that I was able to watch, it was a great race.
Yeah, it was. And seeing all those IndyCar stars, XF1 stars going out there, and of course, sports car stars, sports car racing is always unique, especially endurance racing is always unique. And seeing all these different drivers doing it. And that race, it had its moments. Like when it started raining out of nowhere at the first couple of hours of it, and I kicked myself because I missed the first 3 hours of it because I overslept. And so that was some of the most exciting parts of it. Then it rained again out of nowhere, and that made everything even more challenging. And overall, it was a race. It was a very interesting race. And yeah, I do have some opinions on some of the minor things that went on, like safety cars and all that. But overall, it was a very memorable race.
Yeah, from whenever I was able to tune in, usually every single time I was tuning in, I liked checking out. There was a couple in-car cameras that people had on YouTube from different cars, and there was a lot of different sort of passing going on and stuff like that. And it was interesting to just see the difference in some of the cars and the way some guys would be able to handle and the way other guys were just slipping back like crazy, especially with the way the conditions changed. So there was a lot of different things going on throughout that race, but that's what makes the 24-hour race interesting, is there's a lot of different things that can happen in those 24 hours. So it was really cool to get to see it. And it was really the first one that I've generally paid attention to. I don't necessarily watch 24-hour Le Mans. I'll kind of check it out every now and then, but this was the first year that I really tried to sit down and watch the race, and it was definitely an enjoyable time. And I'm glad I sat down and watched a good portion of it.
I watched about, I'd say probably 18 hours out of 24. I had it recorded, so I couldn't just sit down and watch it. And I like to back up and watch some of the replays of it too. But anyways, yeah, I did see, I'd say, most of the race, and it had its very interesting moments, but at the same time, there were some very dull moments too, like the safety cars that would last hour and a half, and then it's take them like a half hour just to reset the field. And apparently that's a new thing, to kind of reset the field and get everybody into their correct class. And it was all very confusing, and I understand what they're trying to do there, but hour and a half safety car period is a little bit excessive, and taking it almost a good chunk of that time just getting the field set up is excessive. So there's some bugs to work out with that. There are definitely things that they need to change with it. And another thing I realized about this race is that if you're new to watching sports car racing, don't try to understand it because
Yeah.
I don't think even the drivers 100% understand sports car racing. So I think it's going to be a lot more enjoyable if you just accept the fact that you're not going to understand what's going on.
Basically, the simple way is that there's 5 races going on at once in one big race. That's the simple way of putting it. So Ferrari, they didn't Ferrari this time. Ferrari got the overall win at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, their first win at the 24 Hours of Le Mans since the 1960s. And Antonio Giovinazzi. That was so funny to me that Giovinazzi has won more races this year for Ferrari than Charles Leclerc.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
Yeah. That's
and he
kind
won
of
the race, not just a race.
He won the race. So take that for what you will.
I bet Charles was just sitting there in the garage, just so annoyed about everything that was going on that they didn't screw it up. At the early part of it, they tried to screw it up.
Yes, they did.
There was a pit stop going on, and they put the wrong tires on one of the cars. So they had to make an extra pit stop for both cars to switch the tires out. And so they tried, but they didn't succeed.
Yeah, like I said, Ferrari didn't Ferrari this time, but they almost did.
And I can just hear the whole thing with the Charles engineer saying, "We are checking. We are checking. We need you to put the hard tires on."
So Ferrari got the win over Toyota this year, which is, I wouldn't call it an upset, but Toyota has had a stranglehold on this race for at least the last 5 to 10 years or so. So it's been pretty interesting to see the Ferrari finally get the win over Toyota. But the big story of the weekend at Le Mans, and pretty much through the week, is the Garage 56 car for NASCAR. So if you don't know what the Garage 56 car is, let's catch you up real quick. The Garage 56 car is a specially modified next-gen Cup Series car produced and collabed by Hendrick Motorsports and NASCAR directly, with thousands of hours testing and whatnot, for dedicated specifically for the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And this was announced, I believe, in early March 2020, sometime around there. So this project has been in the works for a good while. At the head of it was Chad Knaus, brilliant crew chief. So they had the right man for the job for Garage 56. And when I say that this project was a success, I mean this, because
they finished the race, which that's a big deal in itself.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So finished P39 overall. And they only had like an hour or so where they were behind the wall in the garage. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, had they not have had that issue it was very early in the morning when they had the issue, but had they not have had that issue, they would have been right up there at the end. So, it's unfortunate they had the issue, but hey, this was a test run and it went very, very well. I was able to tune in and catch some of the in-car cameras, specifically when Jensen was driving, and you can see, there's some really good things about this car. I think the only thing that I had noticed was there's a slight lack of acceleration compared to certain other cars. So there's there's things they can definitely work on. But my God, the car was fast and it could fly and
Yeah.
it could turn really, really well. So there was a lot of good to come out of this, and there's a lot that they can work on for the future if they want to continue to, do stuff with Garage 56 and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And two is, like you said, the thing is fast, and they could have probably finished in the midfield in the GTs if they didn't have that gearbox problem.
That's where they were
And
running when they had the issue. It was about 18th, 19th, I think.
yeah, when I went to bed that Saturday night, I believe they were running like 20th or something.
Mhm.
So I was impressed. And then they had that gearbox issue, and I think they were off like 1 or 2 hours. And I believe they finished last overall of all the cars running, which, I mean, that sucks. But the main thing is they finished the race,
Mm-hmm.
which I remember them saying on the broadcast only a couple cars ever in Garage 56 have ever finished a race. So that's a big deal. And they won their class. It was only a one car class, but they still won their class.
Technically, they also finished last in their class, but who's saying?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we won't talk about how they technically finished last.
Correct. So this car was awesome. It was fast. It was great on the in the turns. So I'm curious. Yes, I'm curious if NASCAR would take a look at this for a possible aero package around this for the Cup cars. But we'll save that talk for another time. But right now, could we see a NASCAR class in future IMSA races or something like that in the future, just as a test or experimental races?
Nah, I kind of doubt that just because, yeah, I think there's a lot more. Well, what's the right word? Coming together, for lack of a better term, I guess, between sports car racing and NASCAR. And I actually give that this new generation of car, the credit there. I think that's one good thing that they've done with this new generation of car. It seems like they've kind of not really designed it around sports car racing, but I think they had that in mind to attract sports car drivers, and because there's a lot of similarities there. And I think that, I don't know, maybe we could see something like that, but I'm doubtful. But I do believe there are a lot more. What's the right word? There's a lot more osmosis, which that's a terrible word to use, but they're trying. They're trying. All the drivers are diversifying. I can't speak today.
No, they're definitely trying, and like you said, this project was a huge success. So
this car ran 2,400 miles.
Mm-hmm.
That's impressive.
So, yeah. So the door is definitely, So the door is definitely open.
Races is that?
It is roughly four Coca-Cola 600s.
There you go.
So about 1,600 laps at Charlotte.
Yeah, it was 285 laps total at the track. Thank you to HendrickMotorsports.com for this information.
Anyway, so
I keep cutting Jacob off.
You're fine. So the door is definitely open for that possibility. No matter how big or small that possibility is, it is still there. I would like to see something like this happen for the Rolex 24 just to see it happen, but that's me just dreaming a fan dream.
I think that could happen.
But if they can run Le Mans, they can definitely run the Rolex 24.
I think that could happen. I think IMSA would be willing to at least give the Garage 56 team a shot at 24 Hours Le Mans in a similar way and kind of have them run their own class, but watch them run with the GT, see how they do. I think that's a very experimental thing that they're doing well. And also, these mixed conditions, going back to what we were talking about with the Le Mans, the rain, do you think this could have helped with the research in NASCAR's mixed conditions race, wet racing?
I don't know, because Goodyear brought a completely different tire than what the Cup Series is using right now, whether it's slicks or wets. So that's kind of hard to say right now.
Yeah, that's true. And two is it is still a different car. Yes, there are similarities, but they had to bring it up to FIA specs.
Yeah, so like I said, that door is definitely open for the Rolex 24. I would love to see it happen. Do I think it'll happen? There's a chance, but we'll see. And you got to remember, NASCAR does own IMSA, so
That's right.
So there's definitely a chance there that NASCAR might have a slight role in endurance racing in the future. But
I think NASCAR should do some double headers with IMSA just because they're in sports car racing, American sports car racing is starting to get it's starting to get mainstream, I think.
it's starting to get nationalized more so than it was 5 years ago.
It used to be a very niche thing, but now it is starting to get attention that it deserves, despite the fact how confusing it is.
Yeah, very much so. So Ferrari, like we said earlier, taking the win overall at Le Mans and the Garage 56 car, P39 at Le Mans. Still a very successful day no matter what. Fun race, entertaining race, a little bit of a chaotic race at the same time, but honestly, that's Le Mans for you.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching this most recent edition of the Outside Line podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure to check us out on Spotify at The Outside Line. And if you liked Christopher, Jacob, and I's opinions, make sure to check us out on Backsports page for more articles and opinions about F1, NASCAR, and IndyCar. Thank you again for watching The Outside Line.